My Mother, My Maker by Kevin O'Sullivan, Port Macquarie 2444. Narrated by David Tredinnick. This story is also narrated in Spanish. I got my start in life as the product of my father's tuberculosis and my mother's acquiescence. He contracted the disease while nearly drowning in the Irish Sea when his ship was hit by a torpedo in 1945. An ironic fate for a submarine detector operator. My mother became pregnant the first time they met, at Christmas 1935, and continued to become pregnant at regular intervals, as a good Catholic wife was encouraged to do, despite several perilous births. Tuberculosis increases the libido of the sufferer, a story that is more prettily told in the characters of Mimi or Violetta than it was in our Housing Commission house in Dublin. When I came along, Dr. Corbett, our family doctor, told my mother that if she became pregnant again, she would almost certainly die in childbirth. In the event, my father inadvertently saved her from that risk by dying 2 days before my second birthday. His death, and more so the oblivion to which he was consigned by the family, removed him as an influence in my life. Apart from some spermatozoa, there is nothing of him that has made me. That I didn't know him is something that I used to regret as a small boy, wanting to have a father like the other boys in my class and in my street. Now that I know more, I am glad that I never knowingly met him. I'm not sure I could look him in the eye. I know I couldn't take his hand, much less hug him. But then I understand he didn't do much hugging. My brothers were more likely to feel his belt than his arms. My mother would tell those who cared to listen that she had to be a mother and a father to the 8 children left behind. Having left her comfortable home in England in 1940, she had taken refuge in a strange land and had come adrift from all the anchors that secured her life. Somehow, she continued to live, to get up in the morning, most mornings anyway, to shop, clean, sew, knit, wash, iron, and to prepare 189 meals a week, 9,828 a year. She had little time left for affection. How could she? Neither did she have much time for instruction. I don't remember lectures on how to be, apart from general exhortations to be a good boy, something I took to heart. She didn't talk about duty and about the need to carry on. She just did it. I can scarcely imagine what it was like to find herself a widow with 8 children, no extended family to help, and no income until the war widow's pension came through. If such a person ran away or fell in a heap, we should feel compassion. But she didn't, and somehow she survived. My siblings and I have been harsh towards her at various times, and I can extend my compassion to us too. But surely her endurance commands respect. I am not daunted by challenges or tragedies, even major ones. I learnt this from my mother's quiet defiance of adversity. I value compassion. I learned this from my mother's simple giving to those who had even less than we did. I am someone who knows my limits. I learned this from my mother's capacity to give up and take to her bed when, after many years, it all became too much. What made me was the knowledge that tragedy may present itself in my life at any time, but need not be feared. What made me was the knowledge that life can be lived without the knickknacks and accessories that my companions and schoolmates had. What made me was the ability to first of all be self-sufficient and brave in my undertakings. Connection and love then become gifts to be revelled in, rather than prizes to be craved. What made me was growing up without a father and understanding that just because some things are taken for granted by many, or most, or all, they may not be necessary to a happy and fulfilling life. What made me was the lived experience that it's okay to be different. I know now that my mother was ashamed of her fall from grace, but she did not let her misfortunes define her. She was prepared to embellish a narrative or invent one if the need arose, and it served to help her keep on keeping on. I have little use for blame in my life. nor for regret, preferring to see what can be done now to face the issues. There was no soul-searching in our house, at least not by the time I came along. In my entire childhood and adolescence, I remember only once that she expressed regret for what might have been. It was that I could have had music lessons if we had been better off. I was 15, and I didn't particularly want music lessons. I knew and accepted that the need to feed and clothe 8 dependent human beings from 2 years old to 18 took priority. My mother showed me how to remain positive in difficult times. "We never died a winter yet," was her catchphrase when times were challenging and funds were short, when the price of coal went up or the pension didn't go up or not enough. Like my mother, I have left the anchors of my origin and ventured far from my home. I'm still far from my home, but somehow I know that doesn't matter. Here I will give a nod to Sigmund Freud. To my delight, I have a man who loves me and a job that I love doing. So both the essential boxes for the well-being of my psyche are ticked, and I am secure in my joy. And if things go wrong, well, we never died a winter yet. The end.